Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you. Len, final SOI, CCHL. Any comments on that?
No. I'm going to ask the report be read. There was a small change, but it was only the drafting, but it actually is, everything complies. We're very comfortable with what they're producing. Remembering all of the SOIs for the subs are available on the CCHL website.
Okay. Are there any questions? Yes. Leah, do you want to pop up? Phil.
Thanks, Len. Thanks, Leah. My question's really in relation to community, social and environmental outcomes. And on our page 151, there's good, strong reference to the wellbeings, economic, social and environmental wellbeing, and the potential. And with the strategic priorities too, social and corporate responsibility, and further down, significant restraint in terms of the level of executive remuneration. So my question really is, how are we really getting on in terms of achieving that, particularly that last one, the level of executive promotion. The other part of my question is I was just a bit surprised really that the concept on program of living wage is not specifically referred to.
The first one, as we've said previously, we work really closely and we keep on passing on the feedback from the shareholder, the ultimate shareholder, to our CCTOs, the subsidiaries, in regards to executive remuneration. But ultimately, the employer of the executives is the boards of those individual companies. So we will continue to work with those boards and keep pushing the message in regards to the restraint, which is why it's in our statement of intent. Living wage, as we have worked with council, like a year ago, we committed that we would work with our CCTOs to actually look at introducing living wage for all direct employees of the subsidiaries, and we have pushed that onto the subsidiaries, and we're reporting back. And if you note in the last quarterly update, I gave the first feedback on how that is going, progressing, and to be fair, I think it is progressing really well. Noting that the delay, why it's taking time is because they are the specific entities that affects directly are unionised. They have union agreements. It's not something they can just work through. But their progress is making, and I will continue to have that update to you guys.
Thanks, Leah. And I guess I'd also ask, when, for example, in terms of achieving reducing the high executive remunerations, when there's changes in those personnel at high level, including CE level, is that a potential time for the boards to actually relook at their salary levels?
You need to remember who the employer is of those executives, right? So that is the boards of the individual companies. So CCHL cannot determine what they are paid and if they're employed. That is, but we will continue to give the same message of the restraint.
But I think the point that Phil makes is when they're recruiting new chief executives, that's an opportunity
Correct.
to change things. And I think we're clearly going through a cycle where we've probably got a lot of that coming up in the next few years. Tim.
Because CCHL is the buffer between those boards and the owner or the shareholders, do you think they're taking it seriously? I mean, we don't get any feedback, so I'm just wondering, because it does seem to be we get no feedback.
Yes, they are taking it very seriously, and as I said, we are working very closely with them. I think I get feedback that all the chairs were brought together, I think it was last year, and had a conversation about that. So yes, I do believe they are taking it seriously.
Well, and so we should be able to see something within those new recruitments.
Well, we'll give the feedback. So, but again, we're not the employer, so we just need to be careful of that and be conscious of that. But the feedback has been given strongly.
Remember, you can attend their AGMs and grill the chairs yourself.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just wondering if we look at the different process with regards to those chairs of those boards coming directly to council with CCHL, because if they are so confident that those decisions are good decisions, then they should be confident enough to come here to the owners and the shareholders rather than being a buffer through CCHL.
Well, it's the way it's structured. You have to go to their AGMs and quiz them. If there is a spate of new appointments with salaries that might be considered excessive, then that's an opportunity to feedback through CCHL to the chairs of those boards.
Or maybe it's something that the new council can start looking at changing the process and the structure.
Yanni?
Yeah, I mean, just in relation to that, I mean, I see from the press reporting that, you know, one of our council CEs had a rise of 47% from 2015-16 to 17-18. Another had a 27% increase over the same period. We've been putting this in our letter of expectation for at least 5 years, and yet we're still seeing these decisions being made. So I just wondered, in terms of when CCHL is doing its director appointments for the council companies, whether you're asking potential directors their views around how they can show restraint, given they're the ones making the decisions.
You'll have to ask CCHL directly in regards to that, because obviously I'm not on the governance committee for CCHL. But you do need to remember, though, employment contracts are employment contracts, right? So yes, we've been sending a direct message, but if someone's on an employment contract, even the boards of the companies have to, regardless of whether they put them on. So taking the point of Councillor Manji and Winston, that the new appointments is when you change your employment contracts. So, do you know what I'm saying?
Right, but the problem is because it spirals up because of performance, it then creates a higher benchmark for anyone that's coming in new, and it just seems to build itself up and up and up. So, I mean, I just wonder whether CCHL have done any strategic work around how you get a fairer setting of senior exec remuneration at a general level, so that we can put some principles in place to our companies. Because what we're doing currently is we raise it in the letter of expectation, the statement of intent, but it's made no difference at all.
But hold on, we've just been through this process ourselves as a council, and ultimately it's a question of supply and demand. People apply for a position and you negotiate a salary. I think we've sent a very, very clear message that there should be some restraint, and I think it's when there are changes and there is an upcoming one for the port, that's when you'll see where the feedback has been received. Any other questions? Okay. Have a resolution to note the report. I'm happy to move.
Councillor, can I just say one thing? One thing I would like to say about the statement of intents,
Oh, sure.
just before you finish it. One thing that I am, from a CCHL point of view, that we are really proud of in these statement of intents is two things. One, through the process that we've done in the last couple of years with council, I think the fact that there was not a lot of, very little feedback in the letter, the feedback on the drafts from council, I think is more a reflection of how closely we're working with the council in the workshops and getting the feedback into the statement of intents. And if I look at the statement of intents now that compared to what they were 3 or 4 years ago, I think the quality of them is getting a lot better. I think what also was very exciting for me looking at the finals is some of the environmental sustainability stuff that's coming through. Again, if you'd looked at them a couple of years ago, there wasn't a lot talked about. It doesn't mean that there wasn't a lot going on, but there's a lot more feedback now and we're getting it up publicly. And I just think as a group, for the council as the ultimate owner, they should be really pretty excited that their companies are actually taking some of this stuff seriously. Obviously, you're on different journeys. They're all on a bit, some are ahead of them in the game. But what I do believe, even the ones that haven't been so forward on this are actually starting to get there. So I think, hats up to everybody in this room as well as the companies. I think the actual message is getting across.
Okay, thank you. Well done. Right, I'm happy to move this. Seconder, please. Seconded, Mike. Any debate? I'll put the motion. All in favour say aye. Aye. Against, that's